Hello, Flan Spade here. This video offers a summary of Units 1 and 2 of our course manual. It focuses on what we mean by planning and why it is important, and offers a brief commentary on the main systems of planning in use from the 1950s up to today. So what is planning? Planning is something that we all do every day. According to Harvard University professor Daniel Gilbert in 2006, the greatest and most unique ability of humans is to imagine and anticipate objects and episodes that do not currently exist. That is, to plan for the future. But planning is not just thinking about the future, it's also concerned with attempting to control the future. Planning refers to a wide range of systematic activities designed to ensure that desired goals are achieved in the future. Why should we plan? Winston Churchill once said, "Let our advanced worrying become advanced thinking and planning." Planning is about taking control of the situation and determining our future rather than it being determined. It is the ultimate symbol of empowerment. Planning should allow you to answer the following questions. Where are we now? Where do we want to get to? What is the most effective means to get there? How will we know if we've made it or not? And what are we going to do when we get there? So why should we bother with planning? Planning provides the basis for decision making. Studies have shown that at least half of all strategic decisions fail as a result of poor decision-making processes. Planning helps to get the community involved and take ownership of a project. Community work is as much about process as it is about tasks, and planning brings important benefits to this process. Planning allows for best options to be chosen to meet needs. Through a comprehensive analysis of the situation in hand, you will be able to narrow down options and choose the best possible solutions to the situation. Planning helps us to deal with conflicting demands, which allows us to justify our focus and priorities. It helps us to do more with less. It facilitates coordinated efforts with other groups. It helps to achieve long-term impacts. And it satisfies funders. Most funders now require evidence that detailed planning has occurred prior to approving funding. Good planning is systematic, whereas bad planning is ad hoc. Good planning is analytical, bad planning superficial. Good planning is comprehensive, bad planning is simplistic. Good planning is participatory, bad planning is non-participatory. Good planning involves negotiation and compromise. Bad planning comes from the top down. Good planning is integrated, whereas bad planning concentrates on a single issue. Good planning is forward-thinking. Bad planning has a focus on the past. Good planning is transparent, and bad planning is opaque. What happens when there's no planning? Many projects in the community and family sectors fail because of poor planning, because groups are too eager for immediate action. This can lead to mindless activism. Paulo Freire argued that action without reflection degenerates into mindless activism, while reflection without action becomes verbalism. It can lead to crisis management, which involves dealing with one crisis after another, rather than planning for problems and trying to minimize the risk. So what challenges will you face? One is overcoming inertia. Some people will argue that it's pointless preparing plans when there will probably be no funding available. A perception of too much bureaucracy. A frequent criticism is that we're wasting time in bureaucracy and paperwork at the expense of action. Striking a balance between task and process can be key to countering this criticism. The tendency to go with what you know. People are inclined to opt for the familiar and to reject the need to explore real needs. You are likely to face opposition from entrenched interests. Arming yourself with facts from social research should help to disarm any resistance. You will be advocating for target groups. Promoting the interests of those who have been previously underrepresented in the planning process can often involve us in conflicts. Sometimes people feel underappreciated. People may often feel underappreciated as the results that they achieve through planning may not always be that visible. Planning is about gathering information to enable people to make decisions about what to do. Good plans won't tell you what to do. They will tell you what you can do, and you decide. The types of planning systems that are in use today differ from those of previous decades. From the 1950s to the mid-1960s, the system of planning that was in vogue was long-range planning. Long-range planning systems involved an extended planning horizon of greater than 5 years. Decisions about the future were based on what is known in the present. It became the activity of the elite as it was top-down planning. It placed a low emphasis on evaluation and adjustment. It was highly quantitative. There was a separation of values from facts, which was a positivist approach. In keeping with decision-making theory, long-range planning was implemented as a form of scientific management which placed an emphasis on objectivity, neutrality, and figures. Basically, if you can't count it, it doesn't count. A number of legacies from long-range planning still remain, such as cost-benefit analysis and SWOT analysis, and are still used today. As long-range planning gradually fell out of favour, more flexible and participatory forms of planning began to emerge. The systems of planning in the 1960s were more flexible and they involved ongoing adjustment. They were more participatory. Although the state still had ultimate responsibility for decision-making, consultation with target communities meant that planning was no longer as hierarchical and linear. And there was now also an emphasis on qualitative data. The system of planning from the 1970s was called strategic planning. This was a long-term planning process which usually occurs at the beginning of and throughout a 5-year period. This system of planning involves an initial situation analysis, the formulation of a vision and long-term goals and outcomes, and agreement on broad strategies to achieve these goals. Strategic planning recognizes that the world is dynamic and changing. It has two elements, an overall vision, but also shorter-term action plans. This allows for constant evaluation and adjustment. It takes account for values as well as facts, and it involves both quantitative and qualitative data. Strategic planning involves strategic agility so that it's active and adaptable. It involves integrated planning. Problems are interconnected and plans need to reflect this. It involves producing outcomes, looking beyond the outputs to the impact of the project. Strategic planning is cyclical in nature. It starts with a period of reflection where you do a situation analysis. It moves on to planning your strategy by having a vision and outcomes, a mission and values, goals and objectives, and setting strategies. It moves on to action, where you have an action plan, you have actions, indicators, schedules, inputs, and you decide on roles and responsibilities. And the cycle finishes with another period of reflection where you have monitored your progress, you have reviewed how far you've got so far, and you've evaluated the value of the plan you have put in place for your project.